What's up, Comicbook.com, BD here, and we're back in the Walking Dead era, and I'm very excited about it because this interview I've been doing this for 10 years, Terry, and this is an interview I've been wanting to do since I started my career at Comicbook.com. Terry O'Quinn, this is very much a bucket list opportunity for me, so I just wanted to share my excitement with you.
Well, that's wonderful. I'm very happy to hear it. I hope you won't be disappointed.
Man, I don't think I will be. I also was not disappointed with the show. I watched the first 3 episodes, and it's fantastic. So I actually want to start I want to go back in time a little bit because this is so big for me because I'm such a big Lost fan.
Okay.
I kind of literally have Don't Ever Tell Me What I Can't Do on me like a tattoo. It's a way I kind of live my life. So I would love to hear from you. Is there a line in any show, any movie you ever watched or been a part of that kind of stuck with you and you adopted it as something you take with you?
Not really. Not really. That one for sure.
Yeah.
There was a movie called The Stepfather. Probably one of the first movies I ever did, and I remember spoiler. Of course, it was 40 years ago, so it's all right. He's a bit of a psycho, and at one point he looks in the mirror and he says, "Wait a minute, who am I here?" And that's always stuck with me because he after acting out one family, he goes to the next and takes on another persona, another name. So I say that to myself on occasion when I get up in the morning and look in the mirror.
And then you go to work and all of a sudden you're a new person on every job.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But I just say that at home.
And what does it mean to you when you look at yourself and you're like, who am I today? How does that help you get through the day?
Oh, it doesn't help.
It doesn't help, no.
No, it's not.
Still trying to find the answer.
Not something I look forward to. No.
Did you know when you joined the Walking Dead universe, did you know that Scott Gimple was a tremendous fan of Lost?
Scott told me after when we spoke, he told me he was a big Lost fan. Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to him a few times about it. What did he have to say about it?
Just that he was a big fan. I don't, you hit a certain point in life, the age I am, there's like so many cells they can retain certain. Scott Gimple wrote probably the most dialogue-filled scene for me that I've ever had. In my career, short of being on stage and remembering whole scripts. And so he burned up a lot of brain cells there.
That's
so
awesome.
I don't remember exactly what he said, but he just was, he was a fan.
So that actually leads perfectly to my next question because I started this by talking about the "Don't ever tell me what I can't do" line. And that's, to me, and I think a lot of people, a very iconic line of dialogue. In the dialogue that Scott Gimple did write for you, do you feel like there's kind of a moment, a line that really stood out to you in The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, as General Beal?
No.
Nothing quite like that.
No, nothing stood out. And if I can't, no, I can't. I've tried to remember that, and I can't remember any of it. It went away real quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in my head for long enough to get through that day.
So can you give us an introduction for those watching who haven't seen the episodes yet? It's spoiler-free, kind of. Who is General Beal in the CRM and in the Walking Dead world?
General Beal is the head of the CRM. He's not terribly affected by the actual civil republic. He doesn't really answer to anyone, so he's kind of the capo. And he has an elite force, I guess, of a couple thousand guys, but he also has an enormous army. Mm-hmm. And he's trying to make decisions that will lead to the eventual continuation of the human race, which he believes will probably be eliminated if he doesn't do something. If somebody doesn't do something, and he feels it incumbent upon him, he's in a position to do something, so he wants to.
So what does that mean for the relationship between him and a guy like Rick Grimes?
Well, it'll depend on how Grimes judges what Beal does.
Yeah.
It'll depend on what Beal doesn't have to judge what anybody. He's not going to judge what anyone thinks about him. He's not going to worry about. Well, I mean, he's going to worry because he doesn't want to fly in the ointment. He wants to be able to carry out his plans, and for the good of mankind. And so Rick Grimes can assess how he feels about Beal's actions, but and all Beal says is, "You're with me or not with me."
I noticed a few times that, for the most part, as Beal, you call him Grimes, and there's a couple times you'll call him Rick. And to me, I was like, is he sniffing out a lie? Is he doing that as a tactic? Was that in the script, or was that your call? How he kind of addresses?
Well, that was in the script. That's and I'm sure it's a sort of a tactic.
Yeah.
I think it's just he'll keep people off balance to the extent that he can. I mean, I think that's how the guy plays, and I think when you mentioned Lost, I believe that was how John Locke played. He didn't really know what side of the line was he walking.
Yeah. Andrew Lincoln's Rick Grimes has been, the lead actor in the Walking Dead universe for over a decade now. But your character in The Ones Who Live is the man in charge in a sense. He's the one who's got total control. So when you two get to set, how do you kind of establish the dynamic between the characters? What did Andy bring to you as somebody who's been in this world for so long, and what did you want to bring to the character and make sure that the sort of dominant ability he has is shown on screen?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was what I've been doing this a long time, so. I just, when I get up in the morning, I don't worry too much about getting, the process starts when you open your eyes and you get to set. And Andy is one of the nicest people I've ever worked with. He's a terrific pro, and by that, I mean everything that entails. I mean, he's on time, he's prepared, he's respectful, he treats everyone as members of the team, and he was very helpful. Yeah. So it wasn't like I was never off balance, and Andy helped to make sure that I wasn't. So I'm very grateful to him for that.
Everybody has. I've never heard anybody say a bad word about Andrew Lincoln.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there are like 4 or 5 people I can name who I go like, maybe the nicest people that I've worked with, and Andy's one of them.
Wow, that's awesome. When you join The Walking Dead, I imagine there might be a moment when you're on set where you're like, oh wow, this is like the Walking Dead world, or maybe there's a prop or a costume, or the zombies. Do you remember anything that stood out to you that made you kind of feel like, oh, this is the world, I'm really in it?
Yeah, it was the zombies. When I finally met the zombies, because as I have told people, I didn't watch The Walking Dead. I wasn't, the analogy I use is that there were a lot of trains running at that time, and by the time I was aware of that one, it was well down the track. So I never really caught up to that. And so when Scott called me, I told him I didn't know it. And he said, well, you shouldn't have to. I can tell you what you need to know. And I think back in the day when I first saw it, it was I saw zombies getting chopped up. And I was like, I'm going to go to sleep. I want to go to sleep tonight. I just want to sleep, and I don't want to have that in my head. And but when I saw the zombies, I said, oh yeah, I'm there now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So then when you sit with Scott and you haven't watched the Walking Dead before, because there's 12 years of episodes you'd have to catch up on.
Yes.
None of which really pertain to your character. Like they're not really doing CRM stuff. So
right.
How does Scott kind of give you a kind of an information dump to help you comprehend, like, oh, this is how Beal got to this position. This is what he's been doing for the 10 years. People were watching all those other characters.
Well, he gave me Beal's. He told me Beal's life story basically.
Wow, that's cool.
And we took time. He took the time to describe everything to me. And he just told me who this guy was, and it helped immensely. So I wasn't worried. I always feel like when you get on a set and you're supposed to be something, people say, "Oh, you're playing a Navy SEAL. Did you have to do a lot of training for?" You had a big gunfight scene, and I kind of go like, "No, I did not do the whole running through the woods and freezing in the ocean." I go, "There are former SEALs there's technical advisors on set, and if you do something wrong, they tell you."
Yeah.
And you're an actor. Act like you're supposed to act, and then that's how it works for me.
Yeah, that's so as this show kind of takes us into sort of what seems like the next chapter and maybe the culminating chapter of The Walking Dead. I feel like your character really could be like, not to make a Marvel reference, but like the Thanos of The Walking Dead universe in a sense. Like he could be the big bad who everybody has to either change or fight or learn to work with. Am I onto something there? Is there something?
It's an interesting feeling that you expressed there. You say it feels like he could be. I say I'm glad it feels like he could be.
It feels like he is kind of an antagonist, and pretty blatantly, at least at first, introduced as an antagonist, and coming off of John Locke, who kind of towed the line, mostly a protagonist, mostly a good guy, but sometimes, he's throwing a knife, and then that blows up the whole plan.
Until the sun came out and you saw, oh, that's who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how fun is it to play characters that get to walk that line? Did you find any similarities between?
Oh, a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
It's great fun. I kind of always thought, you can be a white hat on the white horse or black hat, but then you're one thing. I think it's much more interesting to be nuanced, because I think most of us are.
Yeah. How would John Locke fare in the world of The Walking Dead? Do you think he'd make it?
I don't know. He'd probably do something to cause trouble. He'd probably go. I don't know. He'd probably try to convince them all. Come with me. I can do. It'll all be okay. We'll be good.
Yeah. If you want to live, you need to come with me.
Yeah. I can bring you back. I'm sure. I believe.
Awesome. Well, yeah. I know everybody at home is very excited to see this. I can't wait to see the final 3 episodes, and hopefully more from you down the line in The Walking Dead world. Terry, it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for the time.
No, my pleasure. Nice talking to you.
What's up, Comicbook.com? BD here. We're talking about The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. I'm here with Craig Tate, plays Okafor New character in the Walking Dead franchise. First of all, welcome to the TWD family.
Thank you very much, brother.
Of course. How do they welcome you into the TWD family? Is there like an initiation, like you're part of the crew now? What is that first step where you get welcomed into this universe?
I don't know, man. I think because of the strikes last year, not to take a morbid, avenue, but because of the strikes last year, I think anything that may have happened soon after my inauguration into this universe was kind of halted. But thus far, since the panels and since the promotions have been taking place, I have a private social media, and somehow, some way, they've still been finding me. So, but the fans of the universe are very open, and from all the outlets I see, whether it be on which was formerly Twitter or currently Instagram or Facebook, is always hey, welcome to the family, and guys are finding photographs of me I had no idea existed. So I'm like, damn, yeah.
That's both
cool.
Exciting and a little scary.
100%. Well, rather I wouldn't say I didn't know existed, but rather they're finding stock photos and set photos that I didn't know existed. So still kind of sort of, right? You know what I mean? So
that's probably what it feels like to join the franchise, though. Exciting and scary a little bit, no?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, as an artist, the bigger the challenge, the more the excitement. So I guess anywhere where there's excitement, I guess the axis does exist, which is fear. So I mean, the imposter syndrome kicks in every now and then. But I mean, look, it's lifestyle. You kind of get the opportunity to just go into your rock, go into your cave, and just create this cave art. You know what I mean? Essentially, so to speak. Yeah.
Were you a fan of Walking Dead? Had you watched the show before getting to be part of it?
100%, man. I never forget when the first season came out. Me and my cousin actually at this apartment uptown, and just the first character thoroughly that we all fell in love with was Glenn. Always never forget. What did you do before here? I was a pizza delivery guy. So I'm like, I like this guy. You know what I mean? He's cool. So yeah, big time fan of the show.
That's awesome. So I imagine it's even more exciting when you get that call. You get to go live in that world. That's awesome.
360 kind of.
So you're playing Okafor.
Yes, sir.
Very interesting new character. Very key part in the story. Without spoiling anything, of course, can you kind of give an introduction to your character? Who is Okafor?
Download Okafor, for lack of the appropriate, vocabulary. Donald Okafor is a high-ranking member in the CRM, the Civic Republic military, and he has his views on things. And as the world unfolds before the audience and before Okafor, he tries to enact his differences. Yeah. I guess is the best way I can. But I don't know what I can and can't say.
That's like, hey, we kind of get, but we don't want to give anything away.
I don't know if the sniper's outside the door. I'm like,
If you crack the door, you'll see Scott Gimple's eye.
That's what I'm like. Yeah, that door's not all the way closed with a crack in it.
They keep an army of walkers just in case.
Yeah, my guy, my guy.
So you work very closely with Andrew Lincoln, who's been Rick Grimes for over a decade now. I mean, I have been a zombie on set, a walker on set.
100% cool.
I've seen him. He never drops character.
Yeah.
To some extent, he keeps the accent the whole time.
Yeah.
What was it like for you? What was the experience like for you to see him become Rick Grimes right before your eyes?
I was crazy, man. I mean, I never forget during the chemistry read we had, a month, I want to say a month and a half before we got to set. And, he got on the Zoom session. He was still Andrew Lincoln, full on British accent. I was like, who is this? I'm like, what was going on? And then as we break away between the first and second takes of the scenes, you begin to see Andrew Lincoln slowly disappear. And then around the third or fourth take, I'm now in front of Rick Grimes, right? And it's just like, oh, wow, it's a wild moment. Truly it is to see someone, fight. Not just for the accent of Rick Grimes, but to actually find Rick once again. And then you see him on set, and he does the exact same thing. His process is just very feral. He's really fighting very intimately and very intensely to connect not just with scene partner, but also find that space inside of himself. So that transformation is almost like watching somebody go Super Saiyan, man, for lack of a better word.
That's cool.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Are you a
know what
Dragon
I'm
Ball
saying?
fan?
No, big time, bro.
A big anime guy?
Big time, bro.
Oh,
Big
nice.
time.
What do you watch?
I would say my all-time favorite anime is Cowboy Bebop.
Okay.
Thus far, behind that, I would probably go Yu Yu Hakusho behind that, Outlaw Star, and then when you speak about like all the power-ups and stuff like that, Dragon Ball Z is definitely like the first in
Yeah,
that
of course,
tier,
of
bro.
course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Type
yeah.
town, yeah.
I'm
So,
getting through Jujutsu Kaisen right now.
I keep hearing about that.
Yeah.
I see the fight scenes on
And JoJo's
TikTok.
Bizarre Adventure too. I got a lot to catch up on.
Okay, no, I
But,
gotta
man,
get that too.
those are some. You're a real anime fan for sure.
I mean,
I
Cowboy
respect
Bebop
that.
is
I
mine,
appreciate it.
you know what I mean?
All right,
Yeah.
let's get back to Okafor. We just talked about Andrew Lincoln becoming Rick Grimes. How cool it was to see that. What does Okafor think of a guy like Rick Grimes? Because there's actually one scene that I know everybody all the longtime Walking Dead fans, where you get to explain a mystery, which I'm not going to say which one it is. But it's something we've been asking for years. What does this mean? And you get to explain it, and it kind of peels the onion back on what you think of Rick and who kind of person he is. So I love to hear, in your perspective, what does Okafor think of a guy like Rick and the value he may bring or not bring?
Thinking very intensely right now on what you're talking about. I'm trying to see if I can remember the dialogue in my mind, but.
Nobody heard that.
Yeah, I heard that. Oh wow, okay, that divvies it all up.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. So look, a guy like Donald Okafor and a guy like Rick Grimes. I mean, I think that you put us in the exact same room outside of the circumstances we're faced with, and I think that they find a really beautiful commonality outside of their forced circumstance, right? But if you let them get a beer, these guys are best friends. They have a lot to connect on, right? But as it stands right now, I think that Okafor does see a lot of and feel many of similarities in a guy like Rick Grimes, who has suffered immense loss in this world where death in itself is, a main character, no longer a supporting character, and it's one of those things where it's the orphan syndrome where a guy like Rick, for example, is afraid, not even afraid, but he's so unwilling to allow himself to feel at home in this place because, essentially he feel his family's his home, right? And then even outside of that, they're nomads. Even whenever if he does get back to what he calls family. The world is characterized. Their world is characterized by a phase. I'm afraid a phase of nomadcy is it called? Like the act of being nomad. What do you call that? Nomadcy.
No, I'm not sure. Nomadian. I'm not sure. I didn't know there was a word for it.
I mean, the act of being a nomad.
Yeah. I got.
But
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so civil authority, structure, all those pre-apocalyptic things no longer seem, the normal. So he tries to run from that. I guess in the short form, yeah.
And so, but I mean, you mentioned like Rick being at home. He doesn't feel at home. What helped you feel at home on set? Was there anything that made you realize like this is the world? This is how I keep myself present. There's really walkers all around us. Was there a costume, a prop, a zombie walking up that made you feel like that got you present in the Walking Dead universe?
I don't know, man. I think that as actors, I mean, the majority of us are naturally journeymen and women, right? So I think that I can only speak for myself, but I would assume the most of us in this business feel at home on the road. So I know it's like a natural, seamless transition to go from New Orleans to New Jersey, and then from New Jersey on to in costume, and then in the costume on the set, and then just the transitions are block by block, and before you know it, the magic happens. So I wouldn't really say that was, it took much to.
Sure.
Get me to feel at home, whether it was Craig or Okafor. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, congratulations, man. Thank you so much for coming by the studio to talk with us about it. And I loved meeting Okafor. I can't wait for everybody to see The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live.
Hey, man. Thank you very much, brother.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
What's up, Comicbook.com? The Walking Dead era returns in full force for The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. And right now I'm here with a newcomer to The Walking Dead franchise, Lesley-Ann Brandt. How you feeling about joining The Walking Dead?
I feel great. I feel very warmly embraced, actually. I had my first big press day yesterday, which was very lovely. Lots of Walking Dead fans outside the hotel, which is great.
So how do you navigate talking about the show when you really just can't talk about the show in a sense?
I think, doing this job for a while now, you figure out ways where you can tease story and character without giving away anything really important. It's always tricky, I will say, with this fandom, though, because They dissect the trailers with a fine-tooth comb, and they're very smart.
Yeah.
Very smart. So, yeah. But I found a way to navigate it.
Impressive. Well, we're about to see it firsthand. No, but okay. So how does like joining the Walking Dead family go? Like, what is step one? How do they is it an audition? Do they call you, and then what kind of info? How much info do they dump on you? How much do they keep a secret until you get there?
I auditioned. I had a couple of projects actually at the time, and I got them both. I actually had COVID when I booked this job. So I was taking care of my son. We both had COVID, and I did it on Zoom. I sent in a tape, did it on Zoom. I booked another job as well, and I got to the point where I had to choose really between two projects, and we tried to make both work, but just one shot in Vancouver, one shot in where we shot New Jersey, and it was just very hard. So I made the decision to come with The Walking Dead after lovely Andy Lincoln wrote me an email through our agency.
He's the best.
And he just said, please do our show. We loved your take. We love that you made us South African. And I think I made the right choice. But yeah, I auditioned. And then I did a little read with Andy and Denai and Scott were on, and the casting directors were on Zoom as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then I got the job.
And so then from there, is there like a moment when you're on set, whether it's getting in costume or seeing the zombies? Like, when did you kind of realize, like, I'm in?
You there.
Well,
they're walkers.
I know. Well,
By the way.
Depends who you are too, because Rick. I actually almost just spoiled something. I don't want to spoil something, but yeah, everybody has a different name for them. So when you saw the walkers, or whether it was a costume or a prop or something, or a set, was there kind of a moment that stands out to you where you kind of finally it set in, like, oh wow, I'm really in the Walking Dead universe. But also props to you for the correction, because that shows some truth.
Well, there you go.
The fans are going to appreciate that.
There you go. It's not just any old zombie show.
No, it's not.
No, I think my first day, so we started like doing night shoots, which is brutal, but I'm actually secretly grateful to them for having gotten that out of the way, because it's always hard to then do a week of night shoots at the tail end of a season when, everyone's tired and the crew's burnt out. But my first day on set, it was like night shoots, 21-degree wind chill. I'm African. I am not made for the snow, people. And I looked out on set, and all the walkers were there. And then Andy comes next to me. He goes like, all right, Thorne, let's bounce this. Let's bounce this scene. I'm like, shit. Okay, I'm on The Walking Dead now.
So is he doing that in Rick Grimes' voice, or is he doing that in
Andy stays in his American accent the entire shoot. And I stayed in my South African accent. It's just easy for us to, it's easy to slip out. And I think even there were times where we really couldn't talk to each other, but because he's, British and half South African, actually, his mom's South African, and he was like, we kept just joking about, colloquialisms and slang that we grew up with. And he's like, all right, I can't talk to you now. I've got to go back and just get ready for the scene. Yeah.
That's awesome. I was just saying to Terry O'Quinn, I've never heard anybody say a bad word about Andrew Lincoln either. He just seems like the most beloved person that everybody ever works with.
And I think that's, that's a really, you hit the nail on the head there. I think the reason why a show like this can go for 12 years, it has to have a number one who is committed 12 years into the game, 12 years into the show. And who still cares so deeply, and I, to be fair, both of them. None of this is possible without 1 and 2 coming in with their A game, and it makes anyone who is ill prepared to just stay out. And we thankfully never had anyone like that on the show, but that's just smart casting. Yeah.
Just the rest of New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey. I can make that joke. I'm from New Jersey.
I will tell you, Clifton is a special place, my friend. It is special. I did not know. I mean, I went into a deep dive in the Meadowlands and the mob connections and all the way the bodies are buried.
New Jersey's built different.
I know. I was like, there's a lot of cemeteries here. What is up, my people?
I do hope you're able to get a good bagel though. There's some pretty good stuff. Maybe go to Six Flags or something.
I didn't do that. Jersey's gonna hate me. I went into New York a lot because we were, very
as one does.
close. There was, God, I forget this cafe, and I wish I could shout them out, but they were the only cafe that had a decent matcha. And this is very LA of me, but a decent oat milk matcha, which I was searching for 3 months, and I finally got it.
Someone who owns that cafe right now is watching this right
I
now.
know.
Oh.
There's somewhere in.
We'll find it.
God, I forget the name. I'm sorry, but I would shout them out if I
We'll
could.
find it. Okay, so but in a spoiler-free way, everybody who
Yes.
hasn't seen the show yet, can you give us an introduction to Thorne in the Walking Dead universe?
So Thorne is a Navy, South African Navy, who finds herself stranded on a boat. This is backstory, so it's not actually in the show. Plucked out from basically the brink of death by Okafor, and we meet her in the pilot episode as part of the new recruits, and she will forge a very close relationship with Rick in a real comrade sort of, they share a similar, she was trying to get home to her love, and had been trying for years, and so they share that same struggle. Thorne, I think, is someone who understands when she made that decision that this is the world she's now in, and she commits to it. Whereas, Rick is a bit of a wild horse, and it's harder for him to do that. Obviously, he has a family, he has Michonne out there, and I think she starts out just trying to help him through that, and saving his butt a couple of times. And then as they progress through this time at the CRM and at the Civic Republic, you'll find that there are going to be obstacles in this friendship, both for them as individuals, but also as this duo that they. He finds something familiar, I guess, in her, and she does in him too, and obstacles happen and things change, and that's all I can say on that.
I love that. I mean, I having seen the first 3 episodes, I love sort of how there is this, we're kind of rivals, but we're also people who definitely have each other's backs sort of thing. So developing that relationship, between Rick and Thorne, how did you kind of go about that with Andrew Lincoln?
It was almost instant. I think the fact that he has South African roots and used to own a house there, and it started with the email. I will say that, and
That's
that
awesome.
I knew that he was someone who, after working with him, I knew that I could play, in the scene. It's a lot of responsibility. You're coming in, and I knew my job was to come here with the assist, right? Because it is Rick and Michonne's story. But he was very open, as was Scott, as was Denai, to ideas and to discussions about, trying new things maybe that wasn't in the script, or just a different point of view. And it was instant. And I think as actors, we sort of, that's what you're trained to do, is you have to, you go from someone you've never met to hi, now I'm playing your wife. And we have to have this relationship. And here are our 3 children. So you do build that muscle. But Andy definitely makes it easier, being as welcoming as he is. And it helped that I binged the show from the beginning.
Wow, you did all the seasons.
I did all the seasons.
That's a lot of Walking Dead.
It's a lot of Walking Dead, and I think I did it in 3 weeks.
Wow.
I felt a responsibility to you, the fans, and also in understanding the tone of the show and what made these two so special. What was the spark, and how does my character come in and help tell that story, and what is my point of view, and what makes me different and similar to these two. Because I think outside of this world, Michonne and Thorne probably would have been friends, They're two strong women. And I think that plays into a little bit of the chemistry of those two. You know, there's one of my favorite scenes is in episode 3 with the three of us.
Oh yeah, I know exactly. Oh, that was good. No spoiler.
Yeah.
All right, so let me end it with this. Which episode are you most looking forward to everybody getting a chance to see? That was my favorite episode too.
Gosh, I think 3 is pretty amazing. I think the episode Denai wrote is pretty incredible. You haven't seen it yet. But she wrote 4.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I think it's just for the purists, for the hardcore Rishoners. That episode is them. And I the way I summarized the show yesterday on a panel was it's the climax of their love, you know. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
by.
you.
Welcome to the Walking Dead
Thank you
universe.
so
I hope
much.
to talk to you again soon.
yes.
What's up, Comicbook.com? BD here, talking about The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, with Matthew August Jeffers. Welcome to the Walking Dead universe. First of all, we got to start there. How's that feel?
It feels surreal.
I mean,
Yeah, it's so cool.
It's unreal. I mean,
It's so cool.
this is one of the biggest fandoms. It's one of the biggest universes. It's so well developed. Let's start at the beginning. How do they welcome you in to the family? Because that's what this is. It's the TWD family.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
famously. Who needs the phone with the questions? We'll figure it out.
So I did Shakespeare in the Park in 2022 with Denai Guerrera, who played Richard III. And it was really early on, we realized that we worked really well together. We didn't have a ton of stage time, but the time that we had, it clicked, you know? And I loved working with her. I think she felt a similar way. And so when that show wrapped, a few months later, I got a call from my agent, and they were like, you have this audition for this new spinoff for The Walking Dead. And I realized later down the road that, it was through that collaboration with Denai that she wanted to continue the collaboration and invited Scott to come see the show. And he, signed off, and the whole team was like, yeah, let's do this. So it was this beautiful confluence of events, and really kind of the most beautiful part of acting is how things lead to more projects. Like 15th century England led me to post-apocalyptic Philadelphia, and that's really that is, as an actor, that's the dream come true. You show up, you do good work, you take the work seriously, and you hope that leads to another opportunity. So it's been great.
You're talented, you're kind to people, and all of a sudden people want to work with you again.
Yeah, but that is it is that really, it is that simple. I mean, there's timing and luck and all of that, but the more I work in this industry, the more I realize that that's rare.
Yeah.
You show up on time, you do good work, and you show gratitude. On paper, that feels so achievable.
Yeah.
But it's tricky for a lot of people.
Yeah,
and so when you find those people who align with those, who check, those are the people you want to continue to work with, right? I want to continue to work with Denai, and Scott, and in various ways. But it's really about finding the artists that make you really excited to go to work. I mean, what's better than that?
And before you know it, Denai's going to be like, hey, you want to come join the Avengers?
Yeah. I'm ready. I've been doing my push-ups, man.
Hey, man, there you go. So let's talk about your introduction to the character, what they kind of told you about him in a spoiler-free way, and then if you could kind of use that to tell everybody who hasn't seen the episodes yet what we can expect when we meet you on screen.
Nat is a beautifully complicated, fully fleshed out character, which is a gift. As a little person, it's a gift to be able to play that. Scott and Denai, Andy, they imbued him with doubts and passions and curiosities and talents and skills. This guy is like a pyrotechnic. He, is able to wield these incredible homemade weapons, and he is of use for this kind of traveling caravan that he is a part of. And as a little person, for a short-statured character in this kind of desolate, bleak landscape, to be able to have a skill set that is of use, that is powerful and dangerous, and he wields power, real power. literally the electrical life to this group is he built. That's a beautiful thing, and to be able to play with that was lovely and a challenge. I mean, I remember reading the script after I signed on, and it's that perfect moment where you read and you're like really quite terrified, because you see on the page that there's some challenging moments. There's some real acting that you have to do, and that's when you know you're going to go to the gymnasium to work, to stretch, to do backflips, and like, as an actor who is trying to get more comfortable being out of the comfort zone and really kind of stretch my muscle, like it's that perfect balance of being absolutely terrified and really excited, to take it on.
Muscle.
Yeah, to
and
flex
he did
it.
so great too. Like, instantly, like the most likable new character I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen myself get so invested in a new character so quickly. I was like, if anything happens, I'm gonna lose it immediately. And then you wait. We'll see what happens. Well, I've only seen the first 3 episodes, so who knows?
Yeah.
I find it interesting. You mentioned that in being a little person and getting such a rich role, it seems like something that's harder to come by, maybe.
Yes.
So when that happens, when you kind of read the script, when you read what Scott wrote, do you then come back and bring some life experience to the role and say, like, hey, maybe we should add this because this, you might not have thought of this, but it's something that's happened in your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. Scott was collaborative from the get-go. I felt like I could voice any of my opinions, and which is great to feel that way. You don't always get to feel that way. There are a lot of gatekeepers. The higher you get, the more gatekeepers there are. But with Scott and this team, it felt really that I had a voice. With this script in particular, it was great because the character is not addressed that he's a little, there's not so much in the script that it's like pointing the spotlight of him being a little person, which is my dream, right? It's just to be able to play a character, and you see it on screen, like you're going to see that I'm a little person, but then we go and tell the story. So that's beautiful. I did a feature film last summer called Unidentified Objects. It was my first feature. Beautiful, talented young screenwriter, Leland Frankel. And when we went into production with that, they made it very clear. They were like, we don't have dwarfism, and so please tell us. And in that script, there were a couple of scenes where I was like, he would say the word. There was like a fight scene, and I was like, you have to use the word midget here. And they were like, are you sure? I was like, yes, you have to use that word, right? And I'm giving you that freedom. We want to tell the most honest story to tell, like, use that word. And it's good. It's good to be able to feel like you have the freedom to take creative control and say, this is the truest, right, to real life. And that only comes when you're in the room with people that you trust and that you feel like you're really collaborating. And it's so great when you have those artists.
That's fantastic. And your character is, like you said, a very rich character. We do get backstory.
Yes.
So we kind of get a bit of it described. It's an awesome story. And I don't want to reveal anything just here for everybody who hasn't seen it, but I'd love you, when you met with Scott, like, how did you get a breakdown of how he survived this long? Like, where he's been, how he got there, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. There was a great meeting. Our first rehearsal was with me and Denai and Scott. We sat down at this table at the Izod Center in New Jersey, and we read through the script. And I brought in all of the backwork, the backstory that I had created for myself. And I was like, here's what I think Nat is all about. And then he was like, great, let me tell you who Nat is. And some of that was a beautiful braiding of truth, and some of that was like, oh, okay, let me make some edits. And because Scott has this canon of story that he is just the breadth of, he is a encyclopedia of The Walking Dead, everything Walking Dead. So it was this beautiful kind of push-pull tug of war. It's like, okay, I think he did this, but no, maybe he did this when he was 10, but like, okay, just kind of building the foundation. And he knew, he was so specific with who Nat was and where he came from. And it was, again, it's really useful as an actor to be able to like have that kind of tiered level of, okay, because then when you go to shoot, you can draw from that, you know, in some ways you can draw from that and have that subtext kind of come through.
It sounds like that. The collaborative nature is a big reason why this whole TWD family sticks together.
Collaboration
It's
and
awesome.
trust.
Yeah, that's great.
Those are the key words for me.
So when we meet you, your character is spending a lot of time with Denai Guerrero. You guys got to work together
Yeah.
again quite a bit in this show.
Denai.
It's so cool. When she's waving that sword around, I mean, what a badass, what a talent.
True, truly.
So I would love to just hear about the days on set. Was there anything that stood out to you like, oh, wow, I've seen this character before. Now it's like she just became Michonne.
Yeah.
You know, anything that stands out like that?
That's a good question. I got to see Denai wield power in Richard III.
Mm-hmm.
She played Richard III. That is, talk about like a character. It doesn't get more rich than Richard III. And so when it came to The Walking Dead, I already had that awareness of her presence, of her presence on screen, on stage. So I wouldn't say I was shocked or like I didn't have a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, it's Michonne, because I just had so much respect for Denai.
Sure, yeah.
And it was about Matthew and Denai going on this journey to tell this story. The first time, the first day on set when she was in full costume, was like, okay, here we go. Like, now we're stepping into this world, and which was so exciting.
Yeah.
And we had some really beautiful moments on set. I can share one. We on Richard III, right after a scene we had on stage, we had this unspoken. It just kind of naturally developed that underneath the stands, we crossed paths and we started to do fist bumps. And every single night, without fail, after that scene, like ritualistic, we would cross and like don't even look at each other, no words, just a fist bump, and you keep going because it's like, I see you. It's like, we're in this and we're gonna finish this. And it was a beautiful thing of connection, and that same thing transpired on The Walking Dead, where the first take, right before the first take, we did 3 high fives, like 1, 2, 3. Didn't even like have to say anything; it just came. And so before each take, we would do that, and it was our way of saying like, I have you in this scene, like, because there were a number of really challenging scenes between the two of us, and again, you build up that trust, and that person is going to hold you and have you, and allows you the freedom to take risks and make choices. And that is, like, as an actor, there's not much more that you can ask for in terms of giving you the green light to go there, wherever
not
that.
Only are you locked in to go do it, you're locked in with your scene partner.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
If your scene partner is not locked in, then you're free falling.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming by to talk with us about The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. I can't wait for everybody to watch this. And stay tuned to Comicbook.com, because we will have some spoiler-filled bits for you about some of the upcoming episodes right here on Comicbook.com. I'm BD. I'll see you there.